There are many ways that narcissistic parents use to take down their children. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 specific ways, and it's a combination of 3 ways that they do this. It's very confusing, something I see a lot in my practice. So I'm going to talk about that in this video and also what you can do about it to heal it in a holistic way. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food, and the Power of the Mind. I'm also on faculty with the Shift Network and the host of the Toxic Parent Recovery Summit. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about this trifecta of things that the narcissistic parent does that really takes down the adult child. So I work with ACONs, adult children of narcissists, who've been conned. You've been conned into believing all these things about yourself that simply are not true. You've been conned into believing that you're this bad person. And I'm going to guess that if you clicked on this video, you're not, and you're really confused about this. And in this video, I'm talking about these 3 specific things that narcissistic parents do simultaneously that become incredibly confusing. And the first thing that they do is they are on top of you. They are on top of you, like surveillance is one of their tactics that they use, where they're always watching you and making sure that you're doing the right thing and correcting you when you're not doing the right thing. But guess what? You're never doing the right thing. So they put you in the double bind constantly. And that's what that double bind is, where you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And so these narcissistic parents will be on top of you trying to control you because control is what they use. I mean, that's their key thing. They want to gain and maintain control and keep control at all times, and they'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. And then what they do in the narcissistic family system around that is they divide people because they know that divided you fall. So they divide them, they turn people against each other, and it just gets really super messy and really difficult. But when you go through this control and this surveillance, they're on top of you. And the second thing they're doing simultaneous to that, which is super confusing, especially to a child, and this carries through into your adulthood and into your adult patterns, because your child has your child patterns and your adult has your adult patterns. And of course, they are intertwined in ways, but they also become different when you become an adult. So simultaneously, what they're doing, these narcissistic parents, is they are also neglecting you. So you have surveillance where they're on top of you, they're watching your every move, telling you what you did wrong and what you could do better or what you should do for them to make them feel better, the ways that you feel responsible and the ways they put you in the position of feeling responsible for their emotional health. I mean, they do all kinds of tactics to make you focus on them. That's really what you have to do, is focus on the narcissistic parent at all times. It's all about them. So make sure that they are happy, and they're never going to be happy with you. Unless you're the golden child, and that doesn't always last if you end up not meeting your part of the transaction that they've set up for you. Because make no mistake about it, when you are in a narcissistic family system, your narcissistic parent is creating a transactional community among you. It's like a cult. They're the leader and you need to follow. When they say it's their way or the highway, there is no highway. You don't have that choice. I mean, you could leave, but most people don't because they get so bonded in the trauma of the experience, and they're terrified because of the intimidation tactics that narcissistic parents use as well. So here we go. So these 2 things that I've just mentioned so far, you've got the surveillance. They're on top of you all the time, but they're also neglecting you. They're neglecting you emotionally, 100%. They don't show up for you emotionally. Your narcissistic parent is not the person that you're going to go to and say, hey, I had a bad day. And, you're not going to seek comfort from this parent because they're not able to provide it, and you know it. And you learn very early on that they're not able to provide comfort to you. And so then you have that feeling of neglect, like you're being completely invisible. They don't see you. They don't hear you. They don't understand you. They don't nurture you. They don't look at you and say, oh, wow, that's your interest. That's cool. Let's make sure, since you're interested in art, let's make sure we get you some art classes, or, just kind of bring that out. That's what a nurturing parent would do. But a narcissistic parent would only use that child if that artwork they were doing or whatever it was they were doing was approved by them first. It has to be approved by them, and it has to be something that will give the narcissistic parent a sufficient amount of energy. What most people in this profession, they call it narcissistic supply, but I call it energy because these are energy dynamics where they're pulling on different members of the narcissistic family system and getting you to play different roles, keeping you divided, as I mentioned earlier. So because when you're divided and you're weakened and you're under surveillance and you're neglected all at the same time, you are confused. You are so confused because then you're just like, wait, am I a good person or am I a bad person? Because this parent is telling me all the time that I'm a bad person. I never get it right. I never measure up. There's something terribly wrong with me. And so you walk through the world as damaged goods who feels invisible, and you also feel like, but they're on top of me all the time too. Like, it's just a weird conundrum. The third thing that narcissistic parents are doing simultaneously while they are also on top of you, watching your every move, and neglecting you at the same time is they're emotionally abusing you. So the way I look at it is narcissists are driven by shame, guilt, fear, anger, rage, and vengeance, jealousy, envy. All of those emotions really drive the narcissistic experience. And so they're using those specific emotions that they're not going to deal with. They're never going to, take accountability for their own inner life. They're not going to take accountability for the way that they treat you or the harm that they've done to you. They don't care. They really don't care. And that's a really hard pill to swallow when you have a narcissistic parent, to really understand they just don't care. So this trifecta that we have now, and just to go over it again, because I know, if you're probably nodding your head furiously by hearing me say this, it's the weirdest thing when you really understand like what's been happening all along and how much that's confused you. But that the trifecta of these tactics that they use simultaneously that make you so confused and make healing so much harder, because it confuses you about who you are. It confuses you about what your role was in the system. So they're watching you, they are neglecting you, and they are also abusing you emotionally at the same time. So they're hurling insults at you. They're hurling all those emotions that I just mentioned. They're hurling those at you. And, your narcissistic father, your narcissistic mother, they use these tactics in different ways, but across the board, pretty much the same, where they're motivated by those emotions: jealousy, envy, vengeance, rage, fear. They're using all those emotions to control you. And of course, shame and guilt being the two biggest ones, because it is a shame-driven disorder. So here you are having all these emotions hurled at you. You're taking them on, especially if you're a sensitive, empathic, intelligent, kind, caring, intuitive kid. You're taking that stuff on, you're absorbing it, but then you're also pushing down your own emotional experience, because you're not supposed to have those emotional experiences. You're not supposed to get angry. That's not okay. That's the only person who's allowed to do that is the narcissistic parent, or parents. A lot of times you have it in both parents. You're not allowed to express yourself and the things that you need to say. If you do, say you're a kid and you come home from school and your new little boyfriend just broke up with you and you're sad, you're so upset, you're heartbroken, it's your first little love, and it's a huge deal. And instead of that being recognized by a narcissistic parent, it's going to be shut down. And they're going to say shaming, blaming, damning things to you about it, and make you feel worse than you already do. or maybe guilting things about it, like, oh, you're too young to have those kinds of feelings, or, they shut you down in all kinds of ways. That's ridiculous. Get over it. It's only the first one. They'll minimize it, dismiss it, and then criticize it. So those things are at play all the time when you're dealing with this kind of parent, or they're at play at some point or another. Now, sometimes with the golden child, I've heard this in a lot of narcissistic family systems, the golden child that can do no wrong, that is always praised and all of that. But that you've got to understand that even that golden child relationship is transactional. It's based on what the narcissistic parent is getting out of the golden child, the energy that they're getting from that child. And then that child often ends up also being highly narcissistic because of the special treatment that they get, and that then they end up being very entitled to have certain treatment. So when you think about this narcissistic family system and you think about these three things that they do all at once and what that does to you, and the damage it can do to you is make you incredibly confused. It can make it very difficult for you to make decisions. You can freeze inside of your decisions and not know which way to go with them. So that's one of the things that I see a lot in my practice. You can also feel confused about and divided in yourself about what do I really feel? Am I really a bad person? Am I really a good person? And I often say it like this. There's who you think you are, and that's the person that you were programmed to be. So this is how you were brought up and raised to think about yourself. But then there's also the who you know you are, and this is over here. And the who you know you are is that person that in your heart you are this good person. You may have skills, talents, and abilities that you push to the wayside because they were criticized into oblivion. And so you have, in between that, you have this wall where you're going to feel really divided by this wall. And you're going to feel like two people. The two people aspect was coming from your narcissistic parent. That split person, that split aspect is coming from them because that's what they are. That's who they are. They are an empty shell individual who is projecting a fantasy of themselves to people in the outside world, and you're getting the brunt of all of their pain, their shame, their guilt, their vengeance, their anger, their rage. All of that is coming your way. So think about how heavy that is. That's really heavy. So, but let's lighten the load here, okay? There are things that we can do. First of all, I always say you need to seek help. This is a very specialized kind of abuse, and it wears away at you. I often say one cut at a time over a long period of time. So getting help is really important. Looking at all the videos that you can to try to learn as much as you can is great. It's really important because it helps to reinforce, like, yeah, you know what, that did happen. Because you'll try to talk yourself out of it because you were minimized and dismissed, and your thoughts and feelings and beliefs were minimized and dismissed. So something that you can also do is really look at the emotional damage, like what emotions were hurled at you, and start to learn like where those emotions are in your body. So if something triggers you, upsets you, and you start to feel like you're a bad person, that's shame. And that shame is the densest emotion that there is. It's actually been measured on the scale of consciousness. It is the densest, lowest vibration of emotion that there is. And so the shame is weighing you down. And you carry that through your life, and that shame can eventually turn into disease in the body. And a lot of us, ACONs, we deal with a lot of shame, and then we also deal with disease because of the weight of the shame and of feeling like, hey, I'm a bad person, when you know you're not. Get in touch with like how you're holding that in your body. Where do you feel that? Do you feel it in your throat? And then start learning about the human energy system. I have a lot of stuff on my website, and there's tons of other videos and all of that. But in the fifth center of the human energy system, this is your center of self-expression and communication. And this was silenced. So you may have thyroid issues. You may have recurring throat infections. You may have issues with getting hoarse quite a bit, losing your voice. Issues with your voice not feeling strong, not being able to project, being too quiet. It's one of my issues. People not being able to hear you. Can you repeat that, please? Those kinds of things can really be associated with this silencing that goes on. So just to start getting in touch with your body more and where you're storing those emotions. And when you do feel that, you say you feel a shame here, because you could never speak up, you weren't allowed to. I call it a prison of silence because it truly is a prison of silence growing up with a narcissistic parent. So here you are with the shame in your throat and you feel it, and it's a big old lump and you can't say anything. Put your hand on your throat. Take some deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth to help you release some of the energy of that shame. So those 3 deep breaths, they're called cleansing breaths that you take in through the nose and out through the mouth. They can help to reset the nervous system. And when I talk about the nervous system, I'm talking about the energy system. It's the energy that animates you. And there's blockages and there's tears and there's holes and all these things going on in your system. And so finding somebody to help you work with that could be a really powerful move on your part. So if this is resonating with you and you are enjoying this video, please give me a like, because that makes sure that the video gets out to more people in the algorithm who need to see it. And then put something in the comments below. That also helps. Maybe just what you think about it or what you would add to it. If you understand, like, oh my gosh, that whole trifecta, it's awful to think about all those 3 things happening simultaneously. And my parents are at the helm of that ship. That can be really awful to think about. So just think about what you are understanding about it and put that in the comments. That would mean a lot to me. Also check out my online course, Healing the 5 Primary Wounds of Parental Narcissistic Abuse. It's a self-study course with a private community that's not on Facebook. It's inside of the self-study course community, and you can go take that course. It's very inexpensive, and there's a lot in that course. You can check me out on the Shift Network and see about my upcoming courses with them. And let's see what else. All these videos, so many videos here on this channel. Thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate you. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope that this information will help you get well now.